Worry less, love more was the title of my Instagram post today, my email today, because sadly in dentistry, one of the leaders in dentistry died suddenly just yesterday. And I didn't have a chance to meet that dentist, but I followed his journey online. And it's just a poignant reminder of what can happen in life. And I did not know this was going to happen before this amazing interview I set today with Dr. Pearl, who's going to talk about her brother and his book, Life Interrupted. But before we bring her on and ask her about it, we were talking beforehand. And one thing we can relate to as dentists and humans is fear of failure, as regular humans, being worried to try new things. And this book, which I have read a lot of, and I'm going to finish reading, is truly amazing. To get a copy of this book, text Manu to 215-543-6454. We'll text you back how to get it. But Pearl, welcome to Talking Nachos. I've been looking forward to talking with you about this. Share with us a little bit some of the context of your brother's amazing life, what you guys did with this book, finishing his journey to get us started.
Thank you, Paul. Thank you for having me here and for giving me this platform to share his story. And I'm sure most of you have read parts or pieces of him in Dental Town magazines. And so Manu, as we all know, he had oral cancer diagnosed in 2019. However, the cancer reappeared in April of 2020, and he went through chemo radiation. And summer of last year, after chemo, he decided he's going to quit dentistry because it was taxing on his mind, body. He was getting, and the cancer had reappeared within 8 months of initial diagnosis. So,
and one of the things I just want to interject is, because I was reading in the book, I just, will say this to you. I wish I could have said this to your brother. I was so impressed by his courage, because to go through this during the pandemic must have just been so extra challenging, extra brutal, because people couldn't go to hospitals. So I just, in his memory and legacy, it inspires me to show more courage, because I was reading that at the end of the book, and that must have been it. So just for people tuning in, 2019, diagnosed with oral cancer.
Right.
It was in Canada, right, at the time?
In Canada, it was so he showed me a lesion on his tongue in June, and I told him to biopsy. They were like, they weren't very worried about it, because he was young. He didn't present with any risk factors. He's healthy. He was a rugby player. He played every sport on this earth. Yeah. And, and he said himself, and I think this is part of the misdiagnosis or the late diagnosis, that it can't happen to me. I'm 32. I can't have cancer. I am not a heavy chain smoker. I'm not out there drinking every night. I don't chew tobacco. All those, I'm not over 60, all those risk factors. So this was just not on the radar. And he got diagnosed August 2019, and it was stage 2 spread into his lymph nodes at that point. Gotcha. And he went through this major surgery. He chronicled that in when he was featured on the cover of the Dental Town magazine. And he wrote the article. And he was very verbal about his cancer journey. He was very brave. He shared a lot with the world and with others who had gone through such diagnosis while they're in their young careers. And he fought to the end. And at no point through those 2 years that he fought did he say, oh, why did this happen to me? Why? Why am I dealt this deck of cards? Why didn't somebody diagnose this? Why didn't somebody do something more for me? Never. And he fought.
I like to add, Pearl, because I just wanted, that to me shows so much resilience, so much acceptance. What do you think, what I think people can get from our talk, and I know from this book, is things that they can do, oral cancer awareness, but also this prescription, almost like a life treatment plan that I was reading just, on Saturday, and just being inspired. What do you think was part of either your upbringing or his personality that gave him this resilience, acceptance, this sort of saying, I'm going to live my best life even in the face of this, while still being authentic? Because I saw that, he wrote that what he was forced to go through was like what no one should have to go through. What were the characteristics that gave him that strength at that time, do you think?
So I think our upbringing, definitely, we have very strong parents who migrated from India, and I grew up in the Middle East. Manu was born there, and so we've always had to be in a new circumstances with new culture, new language, new environment. And, he moved from Abu Dhabi to Canada when he was in his teenage years, new kid in school, learning everything. We went from like a desert to tundra. So we were so used to change. And as a family, resilience, I think, comes from that. It's not giving up on, oh, I can't do this. It was always fighting through our challenges. And he did it. He fought through every single challenge. He went to first year of dental school. He was on crutches. He had a ACL tear.
Wow.
So it wasn't for him to like sit back. That was just not him. And it's just not in our nature. And our parents are very determined people and very courageous, because they fought through this alone. And, you touched on that. During COVID, I couldn't go because I live in New York. He was in Calgary. Borders were shut. I couldn't fly. And my parents, going through cancer treatment is arduous in its own, but not having the emotional support, a hug, sitting down, a talk, anything, to get through emotionally. So you find that internal strength from somewhere, and you internally, and he fought. There are two ways to go about when you are given a life sentence. Is A, you sit down and you're like, woe is me, why me, poor me. Or you flip it around and say, look, this happened. This is what we can do. We can be more, and he talks about the mistakes he made. He's like, I wish I had done things, I would have done things differently. And we all, hindsight's always 20/20, but, hopefully through his journey, people sit up and be more.
And I think, bro, I've been through some challenges in my life, and, but sometimes being consistent, it's like trying to keep a good diet. Sometimes you have cheat days and sometimes you don't eat well, but it doesn't mean you're not good at eating. It just means you have to remind yourself, because sometimes I say, why me, when our office computers get hacked? And it's easy to go into the why me category. And I just think it's so impressive that your brother is able to inspire others and remember that, good things, challenging things, brutal things, awful things, awesome things happen to us, and how we, respond with resilience. What I'd like to talk about is, a lot of people remember the end of lives, right? And sometimes they get magnified in such a way that, we forget about what happened beforehand. And I think it's just amazing that he was put these in a book together. We talked about some themes. Fear of failure. That's a common theme in dentistry. How did he overcome that? Or if he was here talking through you, or tell us something from the book. You're a dentist watching this. You're a regular person watching this, a normal person, a non-dentist. Tell us about fear of failure thoughts.
He talked about not being scared of failing, but rather fear itself. Does that make does that help? So, and, he's made mistakes. We all do, and we all learn from them. And, he quotes Einstein in there, and he's like, it's not the fact that you make the mistakes. It's making the same mistakes over and over again and not learning from it. Be mindful of that. It's okay to make mistakes, and we as clinicians make mistakes. It's called the practice of dentistry. We're not perfect people by any means, and as dentists, even young or older, it's okay to make a mistake, but own up to it and learn from it and move ahead. And the whole theme in his book too is move ahead with what we have learned and come out positive and come out better on top.
I love that. It's really all we can do in the face of whatever adversity or challenges. I also really think this is key, that, no one lives forever, even though we often feel like we will. Just like your brother, what I would have thought at 32, not me, right? So but leaving behind something positive, leaving behind something good, really, for your brother to do that at 34 years old is truly amazing. Sometimes we think of somebody 70 or 80. So what is this leaving behind something positive and good that was so important to both him and you?
I mean, he was right. I think the last essay that he wrote was on the last one on New Beginning, and he was in the hospital at that time for 2 weeks in isolation. Remember, this was COVID. We're in January. I'm not vaccinated. I can't fly. He's total isolation. No friends can come in. And he's got a collapsed lung. He's got a chest port in. He's draining fluid. He's on antibiotics. He's growing up. So he's in a lot of emotional mind and turmoil. And in that, he talked about new beginnings, about this life or next life, and having hope to go on with it. And but his point of I'm sorry, you're gonna have to go back.
What you had said, and really the book itself represents it. It's just leaving something positive behind.
Positive.
This book can be read for years to come by not only dentists, other people, and just to have the the wherewithal to think this is what I want to do from the dental town essay to this, I just think is really just both courageous, but also just super kind to the people who are going to come after you that you're never going to meet.
You never, and he says, he's like, we're mortal beings, we're going to die. The only way we can stay immortal is by leaving something positive. And this is through centuries, right? With something, whether it's art or sciences or literature, whatever, or a new invention, something positive has come out of it for the better of humankind. And that's what he says, like, leave positive, don't leave negativity. That's not going to get you anywhere. You know, do good. Be good.
You know, what's hard is, you know, the minutia of daily dentisting life sometimes can really bring you down, especially from dental school to now. So I think it's important to embrace that. As we wrap up, and I want to also share, so kind of you to offer, the first person to text in Manu will get a free book from you signed. So text in Manu to 215-543-6454. But I've seen the dental community embrace this book. We've been sharing it on Dental Nos and other places. But I think what you pointed out as the last point, live your life for you, whether it's, you know, FOMO on social media, feeling inadequate, thinking you have to buy a big practice, not leaving dentistry, staying in dentistry. You know, let's wrap up with live your life for you. Such a great message. What did that mean to Manu?
So Manu followed my footsteps. He's my younger brother, and he followed my footsteps into dentistry. He thought this was it. You know, he was a businessman. He loved business. That was his major in college. But he followed. He thought this would be it. And when his diagnosis came, and when he stopped being around other people, and he wasn't married, no kids. So all he did to occupy was time to read and write. And when he started writing, and he was such an eloquent writer, he found his strength in it. He found solace in it. And he says he found his soul. And, you know, for him, he's like, dentistry wasn't for me. And he said that in the article he wrote. And he's like, dentistry wasn't for me. I found it in writing. So be true to yourself. Like, what brings you ultimate joy, and not be fearful of, like you said, FOMO or the opinion of other people. What other people think of you is not your, you know, I was at a conference and they said, what other people think of you is really none of your business. You know, really, at the end of the day, you have to be at peace with you. And he says that finding that internal joy, that internal peace, and the world may fall apart around you, but if you have found your soul and you find your we'll get through the storms. Life's full of storms. We can't go around it. We can't go, you know, under it, over it. We have to go through the storms. Yeah. And being true to yourself and not losing yourself in it will come out through stronger, better.
That's such an amazing message. And I also share, you know, we magnify. I always say when someone says, you know, someone's going to see that this happened or did this, I say, how often do you think about other people outside of your family? Very rarely. So I think we think people thinking about us is really a myth. They're thinking more about themselves. So do what makes you happy, and shifting gears in your career. You know, that's something that should be applauded. You know, if you know, Manu became a writer, went from a dentist writer, we should applaud that. We should just have a little more grace and authenticity with each other as all human beings, but especially in this dental community. I think what I will remember most, is I'm sure I'll read this book more than once, is that dentists are people too. Dentists are people too. And we need to really embrace not being afraid of failure, leaving something positive behind, and living your life for you. Thanks so much, bro. I can't wait till you come to Philadelphia to visit. Is there any way, if someone reached out to you from this interview, is there a good way for them to reach out to you?
My cell phone is fine, or my email.
Okay, great. What's your best email to reach out to you?
It's PARUL, my first name, _ D as in David, UA @yahoo.com.
Awesome, bro. Well, you're an awesome Nacho friend. Thank you for the wonderful gift you sent for our new office. We loved it, and we'll see you in person soon.
No, thank you. Thank you. All right.